Welcome to Innovate Africa. Great to have you back. As you know, we're all about impact. We chat to those founders about their businesses, those businesses that deliver impact on the African continent. Now, there's no better impact, I think, than creating jobs and opportunities, especially if you look at a country like South Africa, where you've got about 60% youth unemployment, and a continent that really struggles with employment. When people build businesses that create jobs, those are the ones we also focus on. Now, you might not be in South Africa, you might be listening in Kenya or wherever, but if you are South African, you'll know the story of Veldskoen. And today, you're joined by Nick Dreyer. He is one of the co-founders of Veldskoen. And I have to say, today we're breaking news. Veldskoen, the way you know it, no longer exists. So that is our breaking news. But we will move on to the impact a bit later. So Nick Dreyer, what a pleasure. Great having you here. Maybe what we should do for those who don't know too much about Veldskoen and its story, it really all started with you, your co-founder Ross, a long trip, and some really silly ideas that started making a lot of sense.
Absolutely, Kieno. Thanks for having me. And the story of Veldskoen is two friends with this good idea. The idea was to figure out how to represent our athletes at the Olympics after having seen them in Rio, and finding a garment or something aesthetically that would say, these are South African champions. And of course, we couldn't think of anything, and the one thing we came up with was a Veldskoen. Seemed to be a really great idea, and we started a business, and long story short, we ended up growing it into multiple countries in the world. We grew it from, I think, 3 or 4 pairs of shoes a day's worth of sales into lots and lots of thousands of shoes.
Yeah.
And it was a fabulous journey, wonderful brand, and we ended up getting our shoes on the Olympians, which was great fun, and we've had a great time doing it.
Well, not only the Olympians, I think there was Prince Harry, there was Ashton Kutcher. I know that Mark Cuban and Ashton Kutcher eventually partnered with you guys in the United States, bought the rights to the brand, I believe. So a truly phenomenal story. But the one thing people did not know, and probably still don't know, is that to make a Veldskoen, it takes about 60 pairs of hands to finish it.
It actually takes a little bit more. We
Oh,
worked out on our supply chain, ended up being over 100. Just
Wow.
over 100 people are required to put their hands on that product, whether it's the box or the leather or the laces or whatever. If you added it all up, you end up getting to this big number.
Yeah.
And it was this number that sort of gave the entire project meaning, which it's simple math, right? If you sell X, it takes X amount of people. If you sell X plus, it'll take X plus amount of people. And if you work in a space where it has impact, and it has impact in community, then it can be incredibly rewarding. And people get that. People get the understanding. It's,
Right.
these days brands are a dime a dozen. I mean, you just have to look at Instagram.
Absolutely.
But that authentic purpose comes through, and then that is a very powerful message.
And it is the one thing that still sticks with me, as I say, on a continent where jobs are a few, and we need to create those jobs. It's not only the technology companies. As a matter of fact, technology companies don't create as many jobs directly. It is those things that have to go through production lines, so that those tangible things that you can touch, those fridges that you can open, the shoes that you can put on, that actually create a lot of these jobs.
Yes.
Now, I mean, the breaking news today is that yourself, Ross, you've exited Veldskoen. I always tell people, when you take on investment, be careful what you ask for sometimes. You don't know this because obviously the money helps you grow, etc. But you always have new shareholders, and those shareholders have ideas. And sometimes there's a clash of ideas. And we've seen this movie. It's not the first time it's happened. But in your own storytelling capacity, tell us what actually happened.
Well, the story of Veldskoen is two guys starting this business and then taking on a series of investors. So it's nothing new.
Sure.
Starting with Brian Joffe at Long for Life, and then exiting Brian at just after COVID, and then Mark and Ashton, joining the business, and then also us buying them out. In the same way, you build a team, you build a shareholder team, you build a brand around it. And then when the brand grows and the business grows, oftentimes, like in any ecosystem or any operational thing in life,
Right.
you just, you drift apart, or you see things differently. And I'm an entrepreneur. I didn't grow up in the shoe business, so we had a great idea and we did it. And we had a fabulous, fabulous time. And I'm so proud of the work that we've done. But it also came to the point where we were in it for 8, 9 years. And then, disagreements start to show themselves. And then they manifest themselves in such a way that it just simply doesn't make sense anymore. And it coincided with, funny enough, a time in my life where I felt like I wanted to do something fresh and I wanted to do something new.
Yeah.
And Ross felt the same way. And, even though we've moved on from it and we've exited from it, it's still something that exists in the world as a concept, as a thing, as a brand. And remember, I made this speech 1,000 times. I don't think anyone was listening when I said, we're not trying to take a bigger slice of the pizza. We're trying to make the pizza bigger. And the thing I'm most proud of is that I think I can identify 20 companies now that make Veldskoens. And that really is kind of the measure of success. But yes, the news is that Ross and myself are out of Veldskoen, and we've moved apart. We've had a shareholders difference and a bust up in that world, and we've decided to move on and do something really exciting that we're super passionate about.
Because let's put some context to it, because people could potentially misconstrue what you said. You and Ross are still together.
Absolutely.
Your DNA is still around supporting South African brands, right? And this is the journey that you're going on.
It's around that number. I was infected with this idea around how many people it takes to make something.
Right.
And I was infected with this idea that you could put South African talent on a shelf, whether it's digitally or in real life, somewhere in the world. And if you could do that, that number will grow. And that is the thing that it infected my brain and Ross's brain. Just so you know, the two of us, sadly, it's been too long. We've been mates since we were 8. So like it's impossible.
Yeah.
But the reality is that the two of us were aligned and we absolutely got what is going on. And then, like, when you have this sort of thing happen, you have to be introspective and you have to think about what you want to do. And thank goodness, I mean, we are business partners, but we're more family than business partners, but we're totally aligned in this mission. And then that's what gave birth to the new thing.
In my understanding, though, the Veldskoen American business is still yours because you bought, is it?
No, we've moved on. No, we've moved on completely.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I think
and it exists, but we're totally out.
You're totally out of it. Okay. Just wanted to clarify that. So you're moving on to new things. I mean, I got wind of this and, I said, Nick, we have to talk about this. I love the way they think. I share your passion for growing South African businesses, scaling them. And this is our point, right? There are lots of South African businesses doing phenomenal stuff. And you've decided to take this magic formula that you've created, you've knocked heads, you've lost sleep, probably lost a bit of money trying to get the right thing sorted, but you've got something that works. And you're now launching something called Made in RSA.
Yeah.
So let's talk through that. I find it hellishly exciting.
Thank you. And thank you for your curiosity around what we're doing. And in essence, it's very, very simple. If you can find businesses that are in business and existing in South Africa that have a proven track record, it could be small, but they have a proven track record of being innovative, locally made, and the ability to tell their story effectively.
Right.
If you can give them a platform on which they can access global markets, it makes sense that the great work that they're doing can be exportable into the world. And if you can do that, effectively you'll sell more product, which then would only mean there's a positive effect on the supply chain. Again, back to that one equation, the more stuff you make, the more stuff you sell, the more stuff you make, the more people are employed. And it's about that number. How many people does it take to make this bag? How many people does it take to make this pair of glasses? How many people does it take to make a high fidelity speaker in South Africa? Because if you can take that number and multiply it by 10, 12, 15, 20, who knows how big the global markets are?
Exactly right.
Doing what we do already and distributing it from here, that can only be positive.
Okay, so let's talk about the how. So, I mean, it's not as simple as you going, hey man, you got a great brand. You're in America. Or is it that simple though?
No, it's hard.
So let's just talk about that value offering for local businesses.
Yes.
What are you doing?
The offering is having learnt over 10 years mostly what doesn't work.
Okay.
And also being strategic about geolocations, and also then applying best practice technology to whatever environment it is you're in. So if you're in the consumer goods industry and you're making a product, using really, really smart technology, which exists in the world, but applying it in such a way that it makes sense for a South African business to export its product. And that includes transactionality, that includes tax monitoring and tax execution. It also includes distribution. And we're incredibly proud to be partnered with DHL on this, who have come on board as a true partner to make sure that, in their words, their tagline is to connect people and to improve lives.
Okay.
And we've taken our learnings, we've taken the technology that's available, we've partnered really, really smartly, and we've made it accessible to businesses, small to medium businesses, I suppose, to then access those markets and to do it at speed and in a very, very efficient way.
Unpack that for me. At speed.
Traditionally, if I was selling a pair of jeans made here in South Africa, I would have to take those pair of jeans. I'd have to probably put a couple of thousand of them in a container. I'd have to ship them over to a part of the world that I'd want them. I'd want to put them in a 3PL, a third-party logistics company, somewhere in that country. Let's say the US. You'd have to most probably put it in Houston because it's in the middle of the country.
Yeah.
Then if you sold a pair of jeans, it would have to be picked off a shelf. It'd have to be packed into a box, and a third-party logistics party like whichever courier company would pick it up and take it to somebody's home. That entire chain, if you take in the shipping and the cost of money having put it in that country and the time that it takes to get it there, and also add the last mile piece, that jean can maybe find a customer, in a period of 10 to 20 weeks.
Right.
But yes, once they buy it in that country, it takes 2 to 3 days. But the cost to the business, imagine 2 million rands worth of your jeans in another country, and that cash is out of your system.
Right.
What we've managed to do at a very basic level is to say your entire stockroom can be shipped from South Africa to the customer in the US, and it can happen between 3 and 5 days for a fraction of the cost of what that chain used to look like.
And this is thanks to the DHL partnership.
Well, DHL and the Shopify Plus partnership, Shopify Plus platform that we use, which we've bolted together and made it in such a way that we can actually onboard businesses to do that.
This is exciting. This is like taking a Veldskoen, but multiplying it by how many people you have on board already. I mean, this is not a concept you started last year.
No.
You came up with this relatively recently, and you already have a little bit of traction in terms of people wanting to be part of the story.
Yeah. One of the people that how this happened was in one quick example, because there was 1,000 puzzle pieces that came together really quickly. My friend Adrian Henneke, who has this shirt company called Billy Now, or apparel company called Billy Now, has been looking to figure out how to get his products into the world. And we had a chat a few weeks ago, and I said to him, this is, we've got this idea that we're trying to really bottle the power of this globalization piece, and I think we can do it. We're going to need you to work with us so that we can kind of figure it out at the same time, because none of this is set in stone.
Right.
And he was like, cool, let's come along. And then I was like, do you mind just putting some of your stuff, for show, so that we can have a little showcase of this stuff? And he was like, I'm in. And then when I made a few phone calls, the need for this, I spoke at a friend's event, and I asked people, I said to them, put up your hand if you're a South African business and you think that the South African market will be big enough for you in the next 10 years. And no one put their hand up.
Right.
And then I said, put up your hand if you would like to access global markets. So they all put their hand up.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool. I think there's a problem to solve here.
There's your validation, right?
Yeah, there's a little bit of problem to solve.
Yeah.
So when I started just making brief calls, I realized immediately that there was this incredible pent-up demand, supply of businesses that really want to crack the rest of the world. And, we say the US, but we're talking about the whole planet. But it's hard. Okay, it's not impossible for anyone. But you can either go and spend a year, 2 years getting it right, wrong, until eventually you find out your own system. Or we try to figure out a way to say, okay, cool, come join us, and then we'll be part of a group. We'll figure out quickly how to get it done for you. And then we'll have a commercial arrangement that makes sense to you and it makes sense to us. Right. And that has been so well received And then all you need to do is kind of bottle it, right?
Sure.
So we've bottled it in a brand called Made in RSA.
I like that.
Yeah, Made in RSA. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, but you're two heavyweights. You've built this international shoe brand. You now want to work with my little business. We do amazing shirts. We might do a bri or whatever. Oh, man, where am I going to find the money to pay you? You were talking about financial arrangements. So
What you do, yeah,
how accessible and easy do you make it for these businesses to work with you without giving away everything about the model?
near to no capital outlay.
Oh, wow.
The trick is near to no capital outlay. If you can get that number down to near to zero, then all of a sudden it just becomes possible. Then it's a function of really working out your pricing and your margin, and you have to kind of do that together.
Right.
And if you do that together, you can say, okay, cool, how much do you need to be successful in your business? And we do this at scale now. So we sit with the product and we say, okay, cool, so your watch company that you make here or your t-shirt company, how much money do you need for your business? And then it's like, okay, cool, in this product, I need the X amount of margin. Then we say, okay, cool, in order for us to survive and to build a business, we need to take a piece of your sales wherever you make it.
Sure.
And we shake hands and we agree. And that number is completely variable because I've owned a business, because I've owned a brand. I understand you can't just be, oh yeah, I'm going to take X off your top end so that blah, blah, blah. You may not have the margin to afford it. We may, one product might sell one a month or two a month. The others might sell thousands a day. So you've got to be dynamic. So we've actually applied ourselves. We've got some smart people. We work on that structure. So in a very simple way, we switch you on for no capital outlay, and then the return is whatever growth we can generate as a group.
But success could become your own worst enemy. Yes, of course, you make your margin, etc., but you also have to grow according to the demand. The US is a massive market. So you need 2 or 3 big chain stores saying, hey, man, we need X amount from you. And now all of a sudden, I need money to be able to fulfill that.
Yes.
How do I fund that?
So the first step in all of this is onboarding businesses that can scale, both in manufacturing, all the rest of it. So the input has to be really, really good.
Got that.
And you can use smart tools to do that. So it's almost like a business health check before they come in, because you're effectively having to do a DD on businesses. If you get to 50, 100, 200, it starts to become plausibly unrealistic. So you have to use smart tools to do that. Obviously, you use a lot of AI, but you basically build a dashboard for the input. And then once you've got that and you understand which businesses can or can't do what they can do, then that's great. You can figure out their route to market and what segment of that market you want. But the one thing I will tell you that I've learned that I'm a huge believer in, and I've said it to the 4 or 5 businesses that we're working very closely at the moment to onboard them first, is you can't start thinking about Wall Street before you start thinking about High Street. You need to solve the High Street before Wall Street.
Spot on.
So as much as you want Neiman Marcus to stock your beautiful jackets, if you're not actually delivering to customers on a one-to-one basis in that country and satisfying that customer at a very high level, you need to tread very carefully around large retail. And in fact, I think the steps you take is direct to consumer first, e-com, your own platform, then third-party e-com, a little bit of Amazon, a little bit of whatever is going in whichever territory it is, then independent retail. Get better at that, solve that, make sure you can do that. And then Wall Street will come knocking and say, you know something, you've got the product, you can deliver it into consumers, you can do that, you can do independent retail. I can actually take a risk on you.
Yeah.
Which we forget, it's not just an order, it's an actual risk.
Exactly. You've got the numbers to show demand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, if that moment arrives and you've got 40, 50 or 100 businesses in your ecosystem, which is our goal, all of a sudden you can look at them and go, do you need a little bit of help to scale?
Yeah.
And then they're in an ecosystem. You've got to feel for their business. You've got to feel for the way they churn and the way they need funding or what their cash break-evens are. And in that environment, the funding becomes possible, which, just for the sake of everyone knowing, simply doesn't exist in a South African perspective.
Yeah.
This sort of ecosystem. It's starting to reveal itself in other parts of the world. The US has got it and a few others. But the idea is if you can get a group of businesses together and you've got eyes on how exactly they operate and what the sort of demand is and what the cost of their advertising is, then you can start doing some math around what they need. And we're not talking about getting founders, some cash so that they can go and get a flash new suit. The idea is to be able to fund things like inventory and to fund things like direct route to market, which is where it could be trade shows,
Growth.
or marketing or growth. And so if you have this little funding model that can just do that,
Love it.
again, it'll just speed up the amount of people they sell to, which then grows the number. I keep coming back to that number.
Absolutely. This is exciting, man. I must say this, and I'll say it if no one else will. I find it more exciting than Veldskoen itself. I mean, good luck to the business.
Yes.
I think absolutely good luck to the business. But this is that times whatever, 22, 23, great South African brands going into international markets, primarily the US right now. But I mean, that could be expanded to Europe through Ireland, etc. Lots of opportunities. Nick, we will do a follow-up.
Yes.
We'll talk about, more details about the bust up when you're ready to talk about that. But more importantly, made in RSA in this launch. Very excited about it. When is it launching? Because I think everybody's hearing about this for the first time, unless you've had a brewski with Nick and he's told you about it. So when is the app to launch?
Next week, Wednesday, is the reveal party. Effectively,
Which is the 3rd, right?
The 3rd of December. We've got some mates coming around and some close friends. Friends, that have the ability to tell stories.
Brilliant.
And we're inviting them. We're very, very pleased that we've got some of we've got the City of Cape Town support. And I won't give away too much on the guest list, but you can imagine. And the site will be live. It'll be basic, because it's a platform. We're building the platform, but luckily at our spot in Woodstock, and have a look on madeinrsa.com. You'll be able to come and see the companies that we're working with in the actual showcase. So I'm so proud. What you said now with Veldskoen is I really appreciate that. Thank you, because again, so proud of that business and so proud of that brand, and it's sort of the cheerleader for cool stuff made in South Africa, and long may it last. But we've moved on to the point where I'm addicted to seeing these businesses thrive and for us to help them. And when you see their products in the space, it gives me goosebumps, because God, we make good stuff. South Africans are so clever and they are so powerful that they apply themselves and then they build things, and it's so diverse. We've got healthcare, we've got healthcare products, we've got some services products, we've got my mate Sean Scrooby from Fee Restaurant, who's designed singularly the greatest braai of all time.
I've seen this braai. It's beautiful.
It's the next level. Okay. So we've got that in there, and you just think about how many places we could sell this stuff.
Absolutely.
And just opening up these markets and hearing these founders and business owners talk about them, it's intoxicating. And I tell you, it is times 1,000, because I'm just so excited.
So Nick said the 3rd. This is obviously a recorded conversation with Nick. It's before the 3rd. But if you look at your calendar and it happens to be the 3rd, right, then today is the day that it launches. But there'll be more about Made in RSA. This is what we call impact. Yes, things happen. Boardroom bust-ups happen. Founders leave companies like Veldskoen each and every day. But the true entrepreneurs don't sit back and cry. They take what they've learnt and they amplify it. And that is your Innovate Africa for today, Nick. Always a pleasure chatting to you. And I'll see you next week.